All right, welcome to What's Happening Now on KBLKRadio.com. And this is your host, Bishop Bowser here. And we have a good show for you. We have here Jay Bowser and Cornelius Bowser Jr., which are my sons, some of my sons that are here today. And we're going to be talking about the millennials, a new generation of fatherhood. But before we get started into that, I want to, because today is Father's Day, and this is a special day because we want to give a tribute and to acknowledge black fathers after all of what they've been through. So I have a tribute that I want to read to you, if you bear with me. And the tribute is to two black fathers. And this is how it reads. Happy Father's Day, black man. You deserve a pat on the back and a word of encouragement. Throughout the country today, black fathers will be placed in a negative light as being deadbeat, absent, and the cause of every failure in the black family. Yet, black fathers, here you stand, providing for your children and you are as present today as the sunshine in the sky. After all you've been through, you should be applauded for enduring the rough ride of slavery that robbed you of your manhood, role as a father, and identity. The slave trade robbed you of your right as a man to be a husband to your wife, a father to your children, and a man of decisions. You lost your culture, family, traditions, and a right to leave a legacy behind for your children and community. Yes, black fathers, they are talking about you behind the wall. But don't pay them any mind. They wouldn't survive living in your skin and walking in your shoes. Your journey has been a long and trying one. You have survived a reconstruction system that has failed you, Jim Crowism that tried to exclude you, racism that tried to oppress you, poverty that tried to deprive you, a criminal justice system that has tried to enslave you and rob you of your inalienable right. An entertainment industry that has mocked you, a sports industry that has tried to exploit you, a news and media industry that has vilified you, an education system that has tried to unequal you, a church system that has tried to perpetuate the slave's massive plot to marginalize you, a law system that has tried to annihilate you, and a country that has neglected you. Although you were humiliated, stripped of your dignity, sold to the highest bidder, whipped like an animal, and even killed when you got out of line, you adapted to the culture, difficult circumstances, and somehow became what the oppressor did not want you to become, a responsible man, husband, and father. In you resides the divine power to raise a nation of geniuses, entrepreneurs, inventors, doctors, lawyers, political leaders, renowned pastors, and great scientists. Black Father, in your presence, the young yield in admiration to your wisdom. The old stand in awe of your aptitude. Of all the races, nationalities, and ethnicities of men on the earth, you, Black Father, stand out to me, and you transcend the most notable of men. After all you endured, you are the most prominent of men of any race. Black fathers, this is your day, and we celebrate you. So stand tall, because your God, our God, will never leave us nor forsake us. And I say to every black father, happy Father's Day. Now, I want to talk a moment. We're going to get into this discussion here, and I want to talk a moment about redefining fatherhood and what it means to be a man. And this came from the Today, which it was June 10th, 2014, by Joy Jernigan, a Today contributor. And she said, what does it mean to be a good dad? Once it might have meant providing for and protecting the family for a new generation of American fathers. However, the definition of what it means to be a good dad increasingly also includes washing the dishes, making dinner, or taking the kids to school. Now the expectation of for good or bad is both parents are breadwinners and caregivers. An exclusive Today survey in 2000, Moms and Dads shows that fathers are more involved than ever before with their children, both emotionally and practically. While moms increasingly share the responsibility for the family's income, dads are assisting with more of the child care and household chores. About 75% of fathers are being a dad is their most important job, according to the survey, and 61% of dads say they are more involved with the children than their fathers was with them. When Schneider was growing up, he said his dad was active in his life but didn't feel responsible for attending PTA meetings and field trips. He now sees more parents involved in the everyday life of their kids. What is great to me about the role of dads now is we have a new definition of what it means to be a good dad, said Schneider, 39, a former teacher and primary caregiver for his two boys, ages 5 and 8. Recent research supports the idea that dads are more hands-on. The amount of time fathers spend on child care and housework has increased significantly over the last half century, from 6.5 hours a week in 1965 to 17 hours in 2011, according to Pew Research Center. The economic reasons, especially in the aftermath of the Great Recession, might be partly responsible for the shift. The share of married couples who both work and have children at the home is now 59.1%, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. About 40% of mothers are now primary breadwinners, while the number of dads staying at home full-time, although still somewhat of a rarity, has nearly doubled compared to a quarter century ago, to about 2 million dads as of 2012. The current generation of fathers may play a huge role in dismantling those gender norms that leave some boys and men feeling trapped. The traditional definition of masculinity can be incredibly restrictive for young men who are growing up in a world that has moved on from when those definitions were first established, said Tom Burns, Dads and Families editors for the Good Men Project. So if you have generations of older male mentor figures who promote those outdated roles to boys, be a man like we were back in the 50s or 60s and 70s. It can be incredibly confusing and painful for those young men. So then, let us look at this, because I want to talk about fatherhood and what does it mean. And I have about 10 points, and once we get through this, we'll get into our show with the young man that is here with us today to talk about the millennials. Fatherhood means being, number one, a leader without being a front runner. Let me say that again. Fatherhood means being a leader without being a front runner. Our prevailing notion of leader comes from the worlds of sports and from politics. In this sense, in accordance with the leaderboard in golf, and the leader is the one who is ahead of the rest of the field, or he is the one who is leading in the political polls by outpacing his rivals. But a father is not a leader in this way. He does not try to remove himself from his family, nor does he regard the members of his family as rivals. On the contrary, he leads in a manner that fulfills each member. His leadership is inseparable from those he leads. He leads and fathers into being is good for those whom he loves. In other words, fatherhood requires that a father leads by being there rather than being ahead of the pack. Number two, what it means to be a father: a visionary without being arrogant. Number two, he's a visionary without being arrogant. Every home must have a fireside and future, a vestibule and a vision. The father is a visionary in the sense that he has an eye on the future. He has a keen sense of the importance of time, but he has this without presumption or arrogance. He is providential in his fathering. He knows instinctively that his children will grow up and lead independent lives. He provides for them a future vision of themselves. Number three, a father, what it means to be a father: a servant without being servile. The expression servus servorum Dei, adopted by John Paul II, comes from Pope Gregory the Great. Paradoxically, this servant of the servants of God earned the appellation great. He who humbles himself shall be exalted. The father serves all the members of his family without being in any sense inferior. One might say in this respect that a father is like a tennis player. When they serve, they both enjoy an advantage. Number four, what it means to be a father: an authority without being authoritarian. The father, like God, shares in the authorship of life. He is an authority and therefore someone to learn from and be guided by. But his authority does not restrict the liberty of others. In fact, fatherly authority is to cultivate and enhance liberty. St. Thomas Aquinas wisely pointed out that the respect that one has for the rule flows naturally from the respect one has for the person who gave it. A person best understands fatherhood by knowing someone who is a good father. One must begin with the real experience and not the inadequate abstraction. Number five, what it means to be a father: a lover without being sentimental. The love of a father is strong and unwavering. Love is not bound by feeling and hence prone to sentimentality. It is strengthened by principles that always focus on the good of others. Love means doing what is the best interest of others. Sentimentality means always being nice because one is fearful of opposition. Number six, what it means to be a father: a supporter without being subordinate. A father is supportive. He holds people up, keeps them going when they are inclined to be discouraged, but his encouraging role, does not imply insubordination, but reliability and trustworthiness from someone who is strong. He is not supportive in the Hollywood sense of being a supporting actor. His supportive role is played out as the leading man. Number seven, a disciplinarian without being punitive. That's what it means to be a father. A good father knows the value of rules and the consequences of disregarding them. He wants his children to be strong in virtue. Therefore, he knows the importance of discipline, restraint, and self-possession. He is not punitive, nor is he overbearing. He makes it clear to his children that there is no true freedom without discipline, and that discipline requires training. He is wary of punishment as such, since it can strike fear in the heart of a child. All right. So at this moment and at this time, we're going to stop right here, and we're going to take a brief break. So we want you to stay tuned, and when we come back, we're going to come back with Jay Bowser and Cornelius Bowser Jr. and have a discussion on the millennials and this new generation of fatherhood. And we're going to hear from some millennials and let them share with us what it means to be a father. All right, stay tuned, and we'll be right back, and may God bless you.
America's finest city, America's finest music and talk from the Black perspective. KBLK, K-Black, San Diego.
All right, thank you for staying tuned with us on What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com, and this is your host, Bishop Bowser, and we want to bring into this discussion, we have Jay Bowser and Cornelius Bowser Jr. here, and we want to talk about this millennial, the millennials and a new generation of fatherhood. And so I want to begin with you guys, and Jay, maybe we begin with you. So what is fatherhood to you?
To me, I would say fatherhood is not just having the baby, impregnating the woman you're with, or any woman, and calling it the day. But actually being a father, raising them, being there, giving them guidance, structure inside the home, and it's understandable that sometimes especially a lot nowadays of couples and aren't together anymore, but you still being there by setting up some kind of schedule and things like that, and raising your child, not just birthing your child.
Raising your child,
just not being a donor, a seed donor.
So when you talk about a seed donor, what do you mean by that? Just being a seed donor?
Not just going around. Just because you can lay with a woman and make a baby doesn't mean that you're actually being a father. Being active. It's one thing say if you're in the garden, it's one thing to say I put a seed down and I may put a little bit of water on it or something. Then I dip out, and each month that plant is supposed to get its nutrients and
Right.
be trimmed and things of that nature and pruned. And you're not doing none of these things. You don't really call yourself a gardener.
Right.
You just pretty much just came along and dropped the seed. So it's the same way with fatherhood. I think to actually call yourself a father, you have to be there nurturing a child and shedding light on the child and things like that and being a nurturer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I know, some of the things that I was reading here, about some of the research that was done on fatherhood and, surveys and in regards to today's fathers. But I know even though I'm not a millennium, close to being a millennium, but a Generation X and baby boomer, I was born in 62. But even my coming up, it was basically the same way in the sense that, especially what you guys deal with today, it takes two to tango, and some men are breadwinners and could be a provider and so on, but today most it takes two to tango. And so a lot of chores which before we would just call women chores is now the parents' chores, where it's a shared responsibility in the sense of some of the things you just talked about and so on. Because most before, man used to just provide, I'll lead, and make the decisions. But these days, you got to be involved in every aspect of your child's life. So,
Yeah.
buddy.
And
What?
we still
Go
kind of
ahead.
envy those times as well. You guys kind of had it made a little better than we do now. I guess on those, if you put those attributes into it,
Uh-huh.
you guys was living it up back then compared to us.
We're going to have to talk about that. We'll see. So, buddy, Cornelius Bowser Jr., who I call Buddy Roots, what is fatherhood to you?
Fatherhood to me is everything that Jay, my bro, was talking about. Plus, being like a someone who kind of like manages everything in the family, make sure everything is always taken care of, and making sure that the family feels safe. Always involved in your kids' lives, like you were saying, instead of just being, a seed donor, but actually being there, graduation, school stuff, actually going up to school, making sure that all those things are, taken care of, especially if you have boys or girls too, because like a lot of times what I see is a lot of kids, they go to school and if their father's not involved, they don't perform how they could perform because they don't have that male figure in their life. You know what I mean? To kind of rear them the right way and instruct them when they're doing wrong and let them know why you don't do certain things from a man's point of view. So being a father to me is a lot.
So, buddy, how many children you have?
I have two,
And how old are they?
4 and 3,
And male, female?
2 boys.
2 boys.
Yes.
And you, Jay?
I have one child, and he is 2 years old. He's a boy. He's junior, so Jarashian Cornelius Bowser Jr.
All right. So, let me ask you guys a question. Any one of you could jump in on this. Do you see any difference between a black father and other races of fathers? When you look at outside the black race and look at other fathers and you look at a black father, is there any distinction that you can make?
Well, I know one thing. Me myself personally is I'm an avid watcher of Fox News based on I like to see what the other side of the aisle is thinking and their way of looking at certain things, right?
Right.
And so on the Bill O'Reilly show, one of his major things is the reason that the black family the reason that the black male is going through with incarceration and low job employment,
Right.
drug abuse, and things like that is because the family structure
Right.
isn't well put together. So looking at it from their standpoint, they feel it's very valuable that you have to have the mother and the father in the household. Now, me personally, I feel there's so many other things that are going on as far as the systemic racism and structural racism going on with the infrastructure of America that puts pressure on it. But at the same time, fatherhood is a very important thing for our people, and I think other races look at fatherhood very much more seriously than we do as the black race. But it's not initially our fault that we don't look at the fatherhood so serious in the black community, because back in the slavery days, the father was uprooted, treated way worse, demasculated, all kind of different things of that nature. So we have to kind of learn and how to be great fathers all over again, because the system has kind of been set up to teach us not to be good fathers and not to be in the home.
And when you say the system was set up to teach us, how's that set? Can you give some examples of this system that teaches us not to be good fathers?
Yeah. So for one, say if it's hard to find a job and different things like that, you'll be like, okay, the woman needs to get on welfare, and then once she gets on welfare, the father isn't allowed to be in the house.
Right.
So how is it that you're supposed to bring this family together, uplift this family by giving them some government assistance until they can get to the next level? If you say, we'll give you government assistance, but the father can't be in the home. So, there's things like that kind of break up the family structure. That's one.
Right.
That's one right there. Another one may be the incarceration, getting incarcerated a lot.
Right.
So black males are incarcerated at an alarming rate compared to other races, and we do a lot longer terms. And that keeps you away from the family as well. I mean, it's just several things. Several things.
Right. And, and that's one of the things that I think, that people don't understand. A lot of times folks say it's easy to say, well, number one, it's been shown and proven, and I'll just show you something very quickly, and we'll get to you, Buddy Roots. But by most measures, black fathers are just as involved with their children as other dads in similar living situations, or more so. And I was looking at a report. It was a report by the National Center for Health Statistics. And one of the things that it showed is that when you talk about children under the age of 5 and whether fathers are involved, and it talks about this, fed or ate meals with their children daily. 63% of Latinos did, 73% of whites did, and 78% of blacks did. Okay? Well, bathe, diaper, or dress children daily. 45% Latinos did, 60% of whites did, and 70% of blacks did. We're talking about black fathers and so on. Let me give you another one more. We're talking about the children under the age of 5. Played with children daily. 74% of Latinos did, 82% of whites did, and 82.2% of blacks. And it was 82.7% of whites, so they were running neck to neck with that, and so on. And a lot of this, when you look at fathers not living with the kids, it was 6.6% were white and 16.5% were black, and yet they were involved in their children's lives. So I think that people like Bill O'Reilly Fox and all these other folks that try to discredit the black family and saying that the black father is not there, he's not involved in the home, is nothing but a lie and a misnomer. And I think that, yes, we do have to take into consideration the mass incarceration. And what I mean by that is that when you look at races, and I'll give you an example. They just had a curfew sweep. In fact, there's supposed to be out today a story that was done with the curfew sweeps in Southeast San Diego, I believe. Now, when you look at the curfew sweeps, where are they doing them in Miramar? Are they doing them in La Jolla? Are they doing them in Carlsbad or that other place where Ensenada, I think it is, or Encinitas, or whatever you call it? And no, but they're doing it in Southeast. They're doing it in poverty areas. They're doing it in people of color. Young people everywhere like to get out and have a nice time, but they come over here and do these mass sweeps on children. Over in our community, they are stopped more. Black folks are stopped more. If white kids were stopped just as much as blacks, they would be many of them would be in jail too. Many of them would be charged with crimes too. And so when you talk about the incarceration rate and the incarceration, our communities have been criminalized. Laws have been passed specifically to target the black family and the black community and so on. And so, yes, when that black man get out of prison, if he's got a felony and if he's on parole or probation, it's harder to find a job. I would even, and it's not even that, but let us look at the when you talk about poverty, white folks have a greater advantage of taking advantage of the systems even in poverty than black folks do. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's look at something like Section 8.
Okay.
I was just with a young man the other day that is waited 10 years to get on the list, and then he was showing me all the questions that they ask you, and basically all the questions that they was asking has to do with your arrest record, being on drugs, being this. What all they got to do with trying to live in a house?
That's true.
And so what did that do? It excludes you. And so if it excludes you, you have a problem with struggling with housing. And if you struggle with housing, how can you house your children? How can you take care of your children? And so on. So a lot of times we just look at one aspect, but we don't look at, as you mentioned, systemic racism, structural racism, these systems that are set in place that works against black folks, because what they do, they come in, they criminalize the community, they lock you up, and then they make rules for people who have records, and so on.
And so what it sounds like is that a black man is actually extraordinary based on facing all these roadblocks in front of you and obstacles. We're still at a high percentage.
Yes.
With being active in the home. That's a great thing.
Yeah, and because here's another one: children under age 5, far as Latino, white, and black men, black fathers reading to their children. 21.9% Latinos read to their children. 30.2% of whites read to their children, and 34.9% blacks read to their children. So that's a lie when people like Bill Riley try to say that black fathers are not involved, and so on. And there's a whole lot of underlying issues that are going on. We have to tackle poverty. We have to tackle how our communities are being underserved. We have to tackle these fragmented systems. We have to tackle racism. We have to tackle the trauma that our communities have dealt with. We have to tackle the education system that works against us. Now, buddy, what about you? Do you see any difference between a black father and other races of fathers?
Yeah. I guess you can say the way that, like, a black father has to raise his children up based on like the area he might live in, versus a white father. Like, let's say that a black father and a white father are raising their kids in, let's say, like Lakeside or Santee. For white kids, it's cool. They don't have to worry too much about racism and different things like that. But for a black kid, he might have to worry about something like that. And then let's say that they're living more like in the Southeast. You know what I mean? Like a white kid, he's not gonna. I mean, he's still subject to the things in the area, but a black kid, I feel, is more subject to the things in the area. You know what I mean? They would have to more be on their guard because the area has a stereotype. So the police might be more likely to harass you if you go out, looking a certain way, if you're hanging around certain crowds. So the black father has to teach his son different things versus what the white father has to teach his, because of the different things in the system.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I know, like, when I was raising you guys and wearing those colors and stuff, and even though I know Jay was deliberately trying to wear the colors and finding the red rags in the room and things like that, but I know I used to talk, hey, don't wear that color. Somebody don't know you banging and mess around and drive up and shoot you and get killed. There are things that we have to worry about that other races don't have to worry about. Now, I know, and I want to ask a question because fathers worry about these things. But one of the things that people will say is that, well, you're doing it to yourself. I mean, when a black kid is walking down the street, the father's probably more worried about another black man that's going to drive by and shoot him, or get out of the car and shoot him, than a white man. A white man might drive by if they're racist and call him the N-word or something and keep on trucking. But he more so have to worry about that gang element. And we know, there's a lot of underlying issues that are dealing with that. And a lot of times what people do is they'll say, well, it's not really racism because, it's blacks doing it to themselves. But we don't understand, and folks don't understand the underlying issues that are going on that are not being addressed that's causing a lot of this. But we do have to buckle up and start holding our community more accountable.
Yeah.
To both of you, What is your greatest challenge as a father?
Me, I would have to say my greatest challenge as a father is, because me and my kids' mom were not together, and that's something I never really thought I would have to deal with, because I was married, and I was like, oh, I don't believe in divorce and these different things. But then, the things came that, you don't want to happen, so
Right.
sometimes you just have to adapt, and you have to deal with those things,
Right.
So the biggest thing that I have to deal with, the biggest challenge I have to deal with is not being able to be in my kids' life every day and influence them the way that I know that they need to be influenced, making sure that everything is taken care of them all the time.
Right.
That's the biggest challenge I think I face.
And what about you, Jay?
For me, it's trying to be successful, and so you want to stay busy and stay working hard on your business ventures and different things like that, but you also don't want to lose a sight of your personal life and your family life. So that's one of my challenges is man, I got this new venture I'm working on. I want to put all my energy into it. I want to be on it for 12, 16 hours a day. And then when you get home, by the time you make it home, your son may be asleep. As soon as he gets up, you'd already left to meetings. And so what you want to make sure is that you don't start to alienate your family in your pursuit of success. And so that's one of my challenges, trying to find that balance of giving enough family time and also putting enough energy and focus into different business ventures.
So, and putting a unique twist to it in dealing with black fathers, when I hear you say that, that sounds like a struggle that any father would go through. What is the uniqueness when it comes to a black father and challenges that he faces?
The uniqueness and the challenges that black fathers face?
Yeah, because, some of the things that Jay was just talking about, when you're talking about the greatest challenge as a father, that's a challenge that any father will face. And that's what I want to hear is what's your greatest challenge, but I also want us to kind of look at it from the perspective of...
From unique as being a black man?
Yes.
Well, I know one thing is that we have to have the conversation, with our kids when they reach a certain point. Be careful how you dress and walk down the street, because you may get put over by a police officer and he may racially profile you. You can get shot by this cop. You can get wrongfully detained. And so these are conversations we have to have with our youth. With our children at a young age, that I'm sure other races don't have to have that talk with them, and also let them know, yes, you're black. You're going to have to work harder. Right. My son is mixed. I'm a buddy's son as well. But at the same time, once your father is black in America, you're considered black. And so you have to have that talk with your son. Like, hey, you're looked at as a black man in society. That means you have to work extra hard. It don't mean that it doesn't mean you're not going to be successful. It doesn't mean you're not going to thrive. You as a black man just have to work harder. So I think that's our, what's a difficult task that we have to, work on our children with, that other races don't have to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I have a friend, and she has 2 kids. One of them is white and one of them is mixed. You know what I mean? And sometimes she calls me and she's like, hey, can you talk to my kids for me? Can you help me out a little bit? And one of the challenges that I see that will be kind of challenging for a black father also, that made me think about it, is, talking to the kids and getting them to understand that, you are black, and the system and the world is going to look at you differently, but still getting them to be, like colorblind in a sense, and not like look at the world with a negative point of view on it, what I mean, because they're black kids, because like trying to explain to a young kid, like, oh yeah, this is what's going on in the world, sometimes they don't understand that kind of stuff, you know what I mean, and it might be kind of like a challenge trying to explain to them, like, this is the way the world is, but you still have to be positive and love everybody,
Well, I think that society itself and the community, society, the schools, and so on, is going to bring that out and point that out to you. And as you grow, because I know that I didn't like when you guys growing up saying, oh, you're black and this is what's going to happen because you're black, I never really even try to get into that, but just try to get you all to do what you're supposed to do as your responsibility in school and community and so on. But I found myself challenging, when you guys, because I know you say, oh, well, the teacher treated me like that because I'm black. I didn't teach you that. I didn't put that in your head, but that's the way you were thinking, and that's what you were saying. And I a lot of times will challenge you and say, okay, well, you just can't say that. a teacher is treating you that way because you're black? What did he do to you to make you think that? And then when you start thinking about it, well, I don't know, but because that's what society teaches you. When you start in your community in school, people that you're around, that's what they teach you, is that you've been treated that way because you're black. And sometimes it's true, and sometimes it's not true. Sometimes, you just have a jerk. A white person can be just a jerk and not so much be racist. And what I mean by that is that this white person probably don't like nobody and treat everybody all messed up, And I remember I had a problem with a person on the job, and that was one thing I was sharing with someone else who was white. Oh, he's doing that because I'm black.
Yeah.
They said, no, he treated everybody like that.
And you're absolutely right on that. If you look at it as each individual, you definitely don't want to look at it like that. But more so when you break it down to your children, what I was looking at is that the system is set up in a racist way and structured in a racist way. So even though you may not run into individuals that are racist all the time, you may run into them here and there, or far and few, you're still facing a whole system that is set up against you,
right? For
you not to thrive, and it's because you're black,
right?
So you may be in class and that teacher isn't racist towards you,
right?
But when you're walking home and then the police pull you over and draw guns on you and say you fit the description of a suspect that robbed a bank, they're going to do that to you because you're black, and they wouldn't do that in La Jolla and different areas like that because they're doing this to suppress the black community,
right?
You may be going to get a loan, and it's proven fact that it's harder for blacks to get loans and different things like that, especially if you're trying to buy a house in a certain neighborhood. They do the redlining thing and whatnot. So that's kind of what I'm more so saying. It may not be specific individuals you run into that are racist all the time, but definitely you have to explain to your kid that, hey, so just work harder. It doesn't mean you're not going to thrive. It's just because you have to let them know it's going to be there, but you can overcome it. Because if you don't give them a heads up when they run into it, they may be like, what's going on? I didn't know it was like this, and why is everything against me? And I just want to give up. But instead, when they face it, they say, you know what? I was warned that this would happen, and I was told just to keep trucking and work even harder. Work harder. If I have to be 10 times harder than the next man to get there, that's just what I have to do.
Right.
So if it's already in your mindset, it'll be easier to accomplish those goals.
Right. Now, I know you mentioned that, about having multiracial children and so on. Do you think it's more of a challenge as a father trying to raise a multiracial child versus, because you're dealing with different cultures, versus a child that may just be black, and not multiracial?
Yeah, I definitely feel that, because you got two different cultures. It's two different cultures. They may have different beliefs totally, like religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs, and then moral beliefs at the same time. So I think that it's a real big thing, as far as that.
But that can be with two black parents too. I mean, with a child all black, all those kind of things. But I think, with race, I know, at least like from my perspective, a lot of times when I look at it as a grandfather and looking at my grandchildren and looking at the other side, and like, I hope you're not going to treat my grandchild different because they're black, to the other side and so forth. And so you kind of look at that and wonder how they think and how they see it,
And me, myself, personally, it's a trip because in this day and age, it's probably not all around America like that, but definitely in California, it's kind of like everybody's kind of biracial and all mixed up. America's a melting pot.
That's right.
So I think biracial people are outnumbering people that aren't, or if not now, they're about to, because I swear, even my son, he has like a quarter Mexican, 1/8 white, 1/8 Japanese, and half black. So it's kind of like it's so many different things mixed up. And I meet so many people. You say, "What's your nationality?" And I'm like, they give you a whole long list of things. So I think America's being more acceptable to it as time goes on and things like that. But at the same time, like I said, once you got that majority black in you, or even half black in you, America still sees you as black. Look at Barack Obama. He's half black, half white, but he's the first black president. He's not the first black and white president. He's not the first biracial president. He's the first black president. So it's kind of, that's how I see it.
Right, and I think also with President Obama is that he made it clear that that's what he wanted to be identified as, a black man. You know, now people don't say that they try to tell, oh, he's not black and all. Man, please.
See, but Tiger Woods, he doesn't want to be identified as a black man, but people still say the first, the biggest black golfer, Tiger Woods, whether you want it or that's what you hear. That's what everybody considers it. So,
and they're going to force and push that on you.
Yeah.
So, raising children and, especially when they're young, and of course they're going to go through the different phases of life, but when, they're looking on TV and so on, they're not going to really see themselves too much on TV. And as a father raising black children in this is not a colorblind society, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And me and my wife was having a discussion on this yesterday about the news that we see, all the different local channels here. You don't see too many black anchors. And I was sharing with my wife because it is market driven, and it's based on what people want to see on TV and not based on who's qualified to be on TV. And plus we're outnumbered, when you have 5% of blacks in San Diego, we're outnumbered by everyone.
Right.
And so because it's market driven, people want to see people. We say people are not racist, but people want to see somebody like them.
Right.
So a white person want to see somebody like them, another white person. A Latino person want to see another person like them, a Latino person, and so on. Rather than wanting to see the best anchor or the best person that can do the job, regardless of their races. Let me tell you, I have an Asian as my barber.
Right.
And he's been my barber for about 10 years, over 10 years. And I've tried black barbers and different things like that, but I love this customer service.
Yeah.
I've gone into some of the black barbers and all the stuff that I've seen going on, or that you make
conversation.
And so I just found I left one barber and I said, you know what, I ain't. And then walked down the street, and that's when I connected with him. I just stayed with it and so on. So it was somebody that I connected with in the sense of giving me what I want, And so I think a lot of times, even when we talk about raising our children, we have to, I think it was Buddy was saying being colorblind. We don't want them to be colorblind, even though I want to see the best anchor. That best anchor may be white, black, Latino, whatever. I'm going to see that you're Latino, that you're black, or that you're white. I'm not going to be colorblind to that fact, but I do want the best person on there.
Yeah.
And it's sad to say, but what society tells us because that's what they try to say, the most qualified. So you're telling me that there's no qualified anchors, black anchors. That's a lie.
Right.
And so it is racist. And one of the things that I realize, in things that we deal, it's indirect racism.
Okay.
Because Hollywood, when they don't have black actors and stuff on there, it's not because they're racist per se. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they want to make money. They won't. But it's what society is demanding. It's what the market is demanding. So that's what they do. They follow that. Even when you go to a store. I remember years ago when I went to Target looking for hair products, for black hair products, couldn't find none.
Right.
Then I went over to Walmart and found some.
Right.
And so it's who you marketing and who's shopping at your store.
Yeah. See, and the only thing, that's true, but the only part that I find hard, to agree with is the Hollywood part of that. They're doing what the public wants to see, because you have a lot of black TV shows and movies that are very, very successful, and people want to watch it and things like. But they'll still take it off the air. It could be a great positive show. They're getting ratings, everything like that, but they'll still take it off of the air. And you always wonder why they want to take off something positive and put on something negative. And so you can have, say, a Dave Chappelle show.
Mm-hmm.
It was doing super great, but he wanted to take it. He wanted to take it off the air and not extend his contract, because he said the things they were trying to make him do was going to be degrading to himself and also to his race. Yeah. So it's at a certain point they started trying to sabotage. The great black entertainers or humiliate you. Yeah. And so it's not just the integrity of we care about ratings and care about our fans and even just money. It's still some kind of diabolical plot deep within there that it has nothing to do with money, and they still try to make you do stuff.
Right. Yeah. And that's why in my tribute to the black fathers, one of the things I said with entertainment, they want to mock you. And so they want to humiliate, mock you, and so on, and want you to play degrading roles. And so and that says a lot to our children when they're watching TV. and the books that they read, you know what I mean, and everything in society, the system. We most definitely have to educate our children and get them going. I know we run out of time and just beginning this conversation, but I did want to ask, how involved are you all with your children? When all the things I read as far as like playing with them daily, reading to them daily, bathing them, and so on. Okay? And involved in their daily activities and so on.
Well, when I have my kids with me, because we have split custody, but the days that I have my kids with me, I'm involved like 100% in everything. I try to make sure that I give them all of my attention and try to make up for the time that I'm actually not there. So I feel like I got more on my hands to do, because they're not with me. They grow every day. So I got to get more intimate with them, sit there, talk to them a lot, read with them, see how they're reading, see how their writing is, because my oldest son's getting ready to go to like kindergarten. So making sure he knows all his letters, going through different things with him,
Right. Jay?
I would say very involved. One thing that me and my wife have realized, and we often say, is that if she was to be a single parent, how much harder it actually would be. Because for me, being a help out at times, okay, I'll give him the bath, I'll change this, change his diaper, make him something to eat, watch him while you go do this. If she was just by herself and didn't even have the family support to help with the kid as well, it would be very stressful. So I see where a lot of those single mothers come from, with when they're stressed out and maybe feeling a bit bitter towards society, and even those mothers that have the father there, but he's there but not there.
Right.
I feel their pain as well, because it is hard trying to just do it by yourself. So when you have an extra partner to help you out, it definitely takes a load off. And me myself personally, whenever I have a chance to do anything to help, if I'm there and she may be busy, making something to eat, I'll change him. If she has to get somewhere, I'll give him a bath. But her as the mother, she does a lot more of those things on a daily basis.
Right.
But me as a father, whenever I can help out, I definitely step in and try to make sure I set aside time to read to him and play with him and do all of those things. So very, very active and 100% into it. But at the same time, I feel a lot of things that the mother is better at nurturing the child and doing and whatnot. But the father can do it. But you want to have that child-mother connection for a lot of the nurturing things. And I try to do a lot more of the guiding and the structure and discipline and whatnot. Yeah.
So and that's the thing. When we talk about the millennials and in this generation, do you think the lines are becoming blurred as far as the role of the father and the role of the mother, in the sense of what those responsibilities are because of the times that we live in? Or can we still make a distinction between...
Failed to shoot off a rocket.
He knew exactly what